I am John Boos, co-director of the Woltemade Center, and some of you probably have seen me in the economics department. I welcome you all, and I'm just delighted to have Joan Manter, another adjunct professor, coming up and introducing today's speaker, Amy Marshall. Okay, please. Thank you.
I'd also like to welcome you, and I'm very pleased you're all here. And I'm Joan Manter. I teach marketing management. I'm happy to see students and others here today. I think it's really important that we think about how we will be measuring return on investment, effectiveness of marketing strategies. And so with new ways of communicating through social media, we should be able to access this information. We should be able to get the information and use it and determine whether or not it gives us a very good view of what customers and influencers are thinking, what their needs and perceptions are. And Amy's here today. Amy Marshall from Fathom is here to help us understand how this can be done. And I want you to know it is a very new type of thing in terms of being around at all. We were just discussing that really for the first time, we're starting to see some much larger companies going out and trying to market ways to measure social media effectiveness. And so there's been some huge articles and ads in the Wall Street Journal just in the last few weeks. So it is very cutting edge. Amy's the Chief Operating Officer of Fathom Columbus. And Fathom is an internet marketing firm specializing in organic search engine optimization, opt-in email marketing, online public relations, internet video production, and pay-per-click advertising. This is an Ohio-based company, and they work with clients in manufacturing, technology, education, healthcare, and sports industries. And Amy has more than 15 years of marketing and sales experience, and she's held positions at international software companies, including Sterling Commerce and Quest Software, focusing on product marketing and global channel development. It's interesting that she's led international marketing campaigns, and her work has been recognized by the media and channel partners. She has extensive experience in working with technology companies. In fact, we met being on a panel for Tech Columbus a few years ago, and helping these kinds of companies through mergers and acquisitions. Amy has a bachelor's degree from Mount Union in international business and Japanese. And this is her second time coming to speak at Ohio Wesleyan, and we're very pleased to have her here. So please give a warm welcome to Amy Marshall.
Welcome, and thank you for having me back again. Joan speaks so highly. It's so great of you and the class and the work that you guys have been doing this semester. So I'm excited to be able to come here today and talk to you a little bit about how we use the social media data for our business planning, for our clients' business planning, how it impacts what they're doing. Because 4 years ago, when we started our company to do online marketing, well, it's been 5 years ago, honestly, we were not looking at social media. Facebook had just been opened up, and Twitter didn't even exist. YouTube, I swear, had just started like a month when we opened our business. So social media was not even in there. And just over the course of the last 5 years, the impact that social has had and those conversations happening online are helping people make those business decisions. So we're going to walk through a little bit about how we can look at that data, how you can make decisions from it, and then specifically some of the ways that we do that. I'm going to talk with you guys because I think you'll find it interesting as you're doing your coursework and as you're going into your next marketing classes of how this social media data can be used. So we all know that on the internet today, people are sharing all kinds of things. You do it in your daily life every day. You're sharing your opinions about things. You're reviewing products. Even different generations of people that say that they don't use social media. I'm not on Facebook, which means I'm not using social media. But they're using social media when they're making their buying decisions. They go out on Amazon and they're going to order, a new phone or whatever they're going to order. They're out there checking out the reviews. They're using social media to make their decisions every day. So, it's really having an impact not only on brands that are out there trying to market their products, but it's having an impact on people in their daily lives too. If we look at the rating and reviews, every time we Google something now, Google is infiltrating everything that we do with our ratings, what we think, our opinions of their products, brands, services. So here's Thurman Cafe here in Columbus, for example. As soon as you get past their website information, immediately down there, it's all about what everyone thinks about them. This is really important. So as a business, I always say to people, you spend a lot of money on your website, that's great. Your homepage, you're spending tens of thousands of dollars to make it look pretty, when in actuality, you should be spending a lot of money on your first page of Google. Are you present? Are your ratings and reviews good? What kind of presence? Because this is the first impression that you give people, not the homepage of your website. So I always tell people, be really sure, make sure you're Googling your brand, make sure you're Googling your competitors, and those keywords that people would find you when they search for you, what's appearing? What is that first impression that you're sending people? Do you have a lot of bad reviews out there? Because you probably need to be checking it out. And this is the kind of intel that as buyers we're gathering on a daily basis to try and figure that out. Even on Amazon, they have their own review system. So even outside of the search engine, when you're out there, these are being aggregated on the buying sites that you're visiting every day. And they're not always good, as we know. Even on Facebook, when you're talking to your friends, you're reviewing product services all the time. Here's one that talked about a power company, and they were actually talking about what a great job the power company had done. That's super. Here's another one. I love Starbucks. There's tons of those testimonials all over the place. This one's on Twitter. But then there are also those complaint sites outside of the Google reviews, outside of Amazon. Have you guys heard of them? They're called ripoffreport.com, pissedoffcustomer.com. So these kind of sites, they aggregate bad reviews about companies, and these show up in the Google results as well. So these are the kind of things that you need to be doing research as your company and making sure that you've got a good handle on what people think about your brand and product, not just what your marketing department says about your product. They are even not only just doing rating reviews, people are having conversations, in-depth conversations about what they think about a brand or a product or a service. This is a very popular forum. Some of you may be familiar, some may not. It's more for moms. It's called The Bump. But they talk about everything out there. They talk about cars and what they like. They talk about, furniture, anything. This one is reviewing baby formula, and Similac is actually a product that our company works with. So we have to aggregate all the conversations that are happening out there about their products. The Bump is one place that we look. And we take a look at what they're saying. Is it positive, negative? We just did a product launch last quarter. What were people saying about it? Was it good? Did they think the price is too high? Did they like that free bottle offer that we did? So these kind of things are really impacting the decisions now that businesses are making about the products that they launch, about the packaging, about what they call it. So your conversations that you're having every day, you think are minor, they actually matter. So what we always say is social media is like the largest focus group. I'm not sure if any of you have heard about the old-fashioned focus groups 5 years ago, but we used to get people in a room, and sometimes they still do them, and there's good value in doing them. But we get a bunch of people in a room, and we ask them a bunch of questions about the brand, about the products, what they think of them, about the competitors' products. We give them a $50 gift card and say, thanks for coming. These are great. The one thing, though, that the social media data does a little bit differently than a focus group that's like this, you're targeting questions to people in a room that's very contained. The questions are structured, so the answers you're going to get are going to be structured, right? And the person sitting next to you might say something about their thoughts and feelings about the product, and it might end up swaying your opinion in a matter of minutes. That's fine. You can get great data from that, but social media data can also augment that because people are just saying what they want very freely. They're not being influenced at all. They're saying their true thoughts and opinions about your brands and your products. So how are we using this data, and how can it impact the class that you're working on right now, your daily life? Consumers, like I said, they are really using the research to find out, do I want to go to this doctor? Do I want to buy this product? Do I want to talk about this product? So consumers are reading those ratings and reviews. They're talking with their friends on Facebook. Because honestly, if you go to a brand's website and you go out there and do some research on the brand, it's very brochure-like. But then you want to ask 3 of your friends, well, what did you think? Did you like that product that you bought? You're going to believe your friends more than you're going to believe the company website. The same goes true when you're looking for a physician or a doctor or a healthcare professional. You're going to talk to people that you know and trust before you trust the healthcare's website. So this kind of information is really important to brands. So brands are trying to look at this data. They're aggregating information about all of the things that we're saying online, And I'm going to show you a little bit today, and it's probably going to be a little scary what brands can find out about you online, as well as it can be very, very powerful as well if you're the marketer. So why do we use that social media? I've mentioned a lot of things already, but really we want to watch what people are saying about us. And one of the most important things is we want to watch what our competitors are saying. That's really critical, because if people are out there saying negative things about our competitor, we can make sure that we're listening to those and we're not doing the same things that our competitor is doing. We can try and capture some of that competitive market. So it's always good to get a grasp on what they're saying for that. We monitor conversations for brands, so that we're responding in real time to them. If you guys have traveled lately and you went out and you had a bad experience with an airline, or you missed a flight, or they canceled a flight, and you're out there tweeting and the airline responds back to you right away, that's pretty cool. You got a response, somebody listened to you, and so that's what brands are really trying to do with this as well. So social media can be very impactful. So the brands, though, are using this data for product development, like I mentioned already. It's driving the decisions that they're doing within their business about what they're going to offer next. Are they going to offer new service? Are they going to change the price? It's also driving that consumer engagement, which I just mentioned. If you have an issue or you have some type of feedback for a brand, it's great that you have a forum now to tell the brand that directly. And the brand, for the most part, if they've said they're going to listen, meaning they have a Facebook or they have a forum or they're on Twitter, then they're going to respond to you, or at least hopefully. That's what the expectation is today, right? So that's really great to have that type of engagement set up. It also helps drive brand awareness. As we all know now, we're probably going to fewer and fewer websites out there unless you need some information specifically. We're getting it through Twitter, we're getting it through Facebook. It's just faster. If we follow a brand's page that we really like, it's just easier to get the information in the one place that we go to every day to check. We check Facebook, we check Twitter. So that brand awareness is really being built with the social media presence. And then lastly, as I've already mentioned, the competitive intelligence is very important as well. So a lot of the research, and this is the boring slide, I'll get to the good stuff in a minute, but really to understand what we have to do is we have to identify, are there conversations happening online? Is there stuff out there that we can gather and get some intel from? So we do that investigation first. Are they talking about certain keywords around your brand? Do they even know your brand name, or do they know your product's name? Same goes for your competitors. So we really have to do some investigation out there to identify what types of conversations are happening and how are they being talked about. Once we do that, then we can aggregate all that data. So all those conversations that everyone's having about your brand, your product, your service, those can be aggregated with tools today, and we can look at those holistically and gather some trends and some analysis from that. It's not that I'm just going to Facebook and doing a quick search for whatever product I'm looking at and trying to read through all 50,000 conversations. There are tools out there that aggregate all this data and put it in a great trending analysis tool for us. So that means that all of you posting out there, myself included, I know your age, I know your gender, I know what you like, I know your interests, and it's all being aggregated and used by brands today. That's okay, though, because the great thing about that is also I'm getting very targeted information to me. If you remember 4 years ago, you were out online and you would get ads along the side that you had no interest in whatsoever. Now you're getting very targeted ads to the interests that you like, to things that you might actually click on and be interested in. That's probably a better experience for you on the internet, as well as the brands are getting a better experience and better feedback as well. Once we do that and we gather all the intelligence and we do the analysis on it, that's when we can build that business plan for the brand. We have hardcore data that tells us what we should be doing. There's nothing better than being able to build a plan on data. And previously, before we had some of these tools available to us, we couldn't really do that. We were doing a lot of social media activities without a lot of measurement. We didn't know if the things that we were doing was building brand awareness. We didn't know if we were having a positive impact on the tone of the conversations. Do they like our brand better this year than compared to last year? So these tools allow us to do that, and allows us to be able to tell where the conversation's happening online, what channels. Are they using Twitter? Are they using a blog? So it really drives the direction of building the business plan. So if we look at this, the types of things that we can look at with tools that are available to us to gather these conversations and aggregate them and trend them, we look at conversation volume. And I'm going to show you some pictures of what this looks like. But we do look at conversation volume. Do we have more conversation this quarter as compared to last quarter? We look at the online channels. Like I said, where is the conversation happening? Is it happening on Twitter? Is it happening on blogs? And it's not, a lot of times when we do the research, what happens is your blog conversation will be different than your Twitter conversation. People use different tools to talk about different things. A great example is we do some work for Bath & Body Works. And they have us do a lot of research, trending, and analysis for them so they know what consumers, what type of products consumers like. They didn't like this scent. They were very upset that this scent was discontinued. Should we start adding this to our stores? But a lot of what we're able to do, though, is we'll say, well, on Twitter, you should only focus your media conversation because the only people that are following you on Twitter that care about your brand are the media, and that's how they like to get their information. So make your information on Twitter very focused at that type of conversation. Whereas Facebook, it's consumer-driven. Build a consumer-driven Facebook page, talk about your scents, talk about your sales, your coupons, do all that consumer-facing conversation on Facebook. You have a blog. It's targeted at something totally different. We want to get them introduced to the actual people that design the scents and the products, and they want to get to know the brand a little bit. So use the blog for that. That's a different kind of conversation. So people go to different places to get different things. And so that's what this research also allows us to do, is to get very targeted so brands can spend their money more effectively. It also allows us to identify who those top people are that are talking about a brand online. We can say the top 100 people that posted the most, that have the most influence online, meaning they have the most followers, they have the best blog out there, and we can target those people. That's great because you can do outreach to them, you can treat them differently, maybe offer them better deals, give them previews to products, bring them onto an advisory council, so you can really do a lot with those top advocates, those top influencers for your brands. So when you gather all this, you are able to tell lots of things. And once we gather the information, we are able to export the data. Some brands like to take this data and put it into their customer service database. This allows them that if you call into their customer service line, they know now you have 50,000 followers on Twitter. Wow, you have a big footprint. We want to make sure that we take care of you. Wow, you have these interests. Wow, you've said this on Facebook lately. So a little bit scary, yes, but you're getting a better experience when you call some of these brands if you have to call into customer service. They're also taking this data from online and they might merge it into their email list so that they can do very targeted things to you. We build a message map, like I just referred to, being very targeted. We're able to tell exactly what message to say on what channel now. Building an influencer and advocate plan, like I alluded to, really putting a total marketing plan together around those top 50 people for your brand. Because you don't really need to, in the old days, we would do mass marketing. We would send out hundreds of thousands of emails and direct mail because we needed to hit everyone. That's the only thing we could do. Now we don't have to do that. We only have to hit that top tier people, those top 50 or 25 or 200. Because those people are who everyone else goes and reads their information and looks to. So if you have a great blog for the product and service in the industry, for the brand that we're talking about, like let's say you're a Honda advocate. You just love Honda cars and you're a big advocate for the Honda brand, and you write a blog about how great Hondas are and you talk about it every day, people might come to your blog and read all about things about Honda and why you love Honda cars. We don't need to hit all these other people because they're reading this information every day, so we only need to hit this one person. So building those kind of influencer plans into your marketing plans are really critical today. And then also, it also allows us to build a great content plan. So we're deciding what to put on the website, what kind of information to put out on the blog, because we're able to tell now with this data what kind of content people like, what do people respond to, what Facebook post got the most shares, likes, comments on it. This kind of data allows us to tell that so that we're able to tell a brand, they don't like this kind of content, they like this. And it really helps target everything you do around your business plan. So with that, I'm going to talk about a couple examples, unless anyone has any questions before I jump into this. Thoughts, ideas, questions? Okay. Yeah, feel free to ask anything along the way. If something doesn't make sense, just holler. So this is kind of what the tool looks like. What we do is we set up very complex searches with the tool. The tool that we use, I'll throw out some names. You may have heard of some of these. One is not one that we use, but it's very, very popular. It's called Radian 6. If you've ever done internships at big brands, they may have you using this tool. We use actually one that's called Alterian SM2, but it's very, very similar. We're actually able to grab data online from all the way back to 2007. They have a huge database. It's the only tool out there that can go back in time. So it's very powerful. When we work with brands, a lot of, like, especially the retailers, they want to know, how did we do last shopping season from October 13th to January 2nd compared to this year? Can you pull trends on that? We're doing one for Bath & Body Works right now, comparing their last 3 years of shopping data. Are people shopping more online now? Are they talking about going to the stores? So this is really powerful in trying to decide what they're going to execute for this buying season. So the tool allows us to set up very complex searches on anything we want out there online. We try to get very targeted. We try to, so that we get very relevant results. But this allows us to see total conversation volume. The volume's important because we want to know, do we have more brand awareness? Do we have more conversation happening now than we used to, or more than our competitors, or whatever? This keyword gets more conversation than this keyword. But another reason the conversation volume is important is anytime there's peaks and valleys in the conversation, we want to know why. If the conversation's off the charts over 3 days, what happened? Was it a press release? Was it a product launch? Was it some big announcement? This is the kind of information the brand needs to know. What did everyone get so excited about online? What was that topic of conversation? And they try to model that going forward. Is that something we need to work into our business plan? As well as if there's a really big dip in conversation, the same kind of thing. So we really try to identify. Also, if they do a big product launch and the conversation's flat, we probably have an issue. Number one, did we not do a good job executing a promotion? What did it not hit home with your target audience? Did you not get it to the right channel? So this helps us identify, too, some of the things that may have not been so successful. So this is what I was talking about, the demographics of the posters. Posters being you guys, myself, anyone that posts information out there, where you can put together some profiling at a high level. Now, what the tool does is it actually aggregates profile data on individuals until it builds one profile for that one person. So even though you may not put your age on Twitter, you might have your location on Twitter, but you probably have your age on Facebook, and you have your influence because you have a blog and you have, 20,000 people that read your blog a month. So it's aggregating all that information and figuring out that this is, Amy Marshall from Columbus, Ohio. And it builds this little profile on you, and then it allows us to have the data. So this one here, it's doing the gender as well as the age. The age demographic, honestly, is very difficult to put together. A lot of people don't relinquish their data in their profile, or their age in their profiles. But it at least allows us to do some sampling of what is out there, what are people talking about, what is that age demographic and that gender demographic. Oops. So this is the channel conversation. Every piece of content, it does not want to stay on the slide. Every piece of content that we look at, and it goes out and pulls all the posts based on the keyword search that we tell it to go look for, it tags it probably 15 different ways. So it's tagging it by what channel was the post found on, and I'm just naming a few. Who was the author? What was their age? What was the tone of the conversation on that post, et cetera. So it tags it all, and it allows us to segment the data a bunch of different ways when we're doing our research. So for example, this search that we did had actually most of the conversation happen on message boards and forums. The next one was media types, which are like mainstream websites or media sites out there. Microblog is Twitter. Social network is Facebook and LinkedIn, blog, video. So we're able to look at what channels had the most conversation for whatever it is that we're searching on. We can then dive into each one of these and look at the conversation patterns within each channel. So we can look at Twitter and be able to tell what were people talking about the most, who were the top posters on Twitter alone, as well as looking at it as a whole. So it really gives us a lot of intel for the brand to build these marketing plans. This is what we kind of alluded to before. So we can look at, I drilled into this channel here, who were the top people on those message boards, or who were the top message boards out there that were talking about your brand. Again, think of the power that you have as a brand now. You know where everyone is talking, who are the ones that everyone's listening to, and what do you need to say? What more do you need for your marketing plan, really? I mean, it really helps you define it very, very quickly. Here, for example, are your top Twitter posters for this brand. One of them had 72 tweets about the brand that we were searching on. 72 tweets, that's a lot. This person must really be passionate about the brand or product that we have, one way or the other, positive or negative. We can also look at online influencers. So we're able to tell, like I mentioned before, does this person, I don't want to say do they matter, but do they have a big footprint online? Do they have a lot of followers or a lot of people reading their information? In this case, we look probably at a 7 and above. This scoring, 0 is the worst, or the lowest, and 10 is the highest. So 10 are like sites like Google, like Yahoo News, et cetera. They're really top-end aggregator kind of sites. So we might look down in that 7-6 range to try and find those influencers or those people that are really taking the conversations about your brand to the next level. But we can drill in and get lists with each one of these of who these people are. Here again are the top sites that talk about your brand, so you know exactly what types of places people are talking about you, and then what do? Then you can build a plan around those. You're actually able to say, well, these 10 sites, we need to do online advertising to, or we need to do a blogger outreach and offer a contest on that blog, or we need to invite those people to our distribution center and let them see what really happens, treat them really special. So the brand can really come up with a neat idea to engage these top people and make them feel like they are really, really special, so they'll continue to advocate for the brand. We can also tell the tone of the content. So are people talking positively or negatively about your brand? This is really important too. Now, this is a tool that does this automated generation of deciding whether it's positive or negative. So it's not going to do sarcasm. If somebody said, I love to punch you in the stomach, they're going to mark that as a positive post, even though it's definitely a negative post. But it gets us kind of close. It's able to do some trending for us. So we say it's about an 80% accuracy rate on how it labels the posts. But what's great about it, though, is the first thing you do when you show this to a brand, the first thing they say is, what are those negative posts? What are the bad things that people are saying about me? Well, we can look at all of those. And we're able to say, well, the top things that people say about you is they think your product's too expensive, and they don't like that it comes in blue, and they don't like that they have to drive clear across town to pick it up. So whatever those top things are that people are saying, the brand can say, oh, well, let's change it. And all of a sudden, you've got a whole bunch of people that are really excited about your brand because, number one, you listened to what they said, and number two, you did something about it. So that's all customers want. They just want you to respond. And this kind of data allows you to respond to them and target them, which is exactly what you want as a consumer. Another thing that we're able to do is to build a messaging grid from this. Like I mentioned before, we're able to get really targeted once we get that intel to be able to say what we want to say on Twitter is going to be different than what we say on Facebook. To a marketer in building your marketing plan, this is critical. Number one, you have to know your target audience. You have to know that there's probably different types of your target audience. You're not just going to say my target audience is X. You're going to say, well, I have the media. I have consumers at this end. I have consumers at the high end. I have to go to lobbyists. Whatever it is that your audience is, you've got different segments of it. Therefore, you're going to have to market differently to those kind of people. Maybe you've got distributors or resellers that are different than your consumers. So that's why the messaging grid is really, really important to everything that you do. You need to know what to say to them, and then how to say it, and then where you say it. So once we aggregate all that data and we're able to tell what's going on with the product, this is when we actually build the plan. And so some examples just to talk through what that would look like. So like we said, to really get targeted on that messaging. You're not going to do a blanket statement to everyone. Obviously, you're going to have a theme that can be your advertising that goes out to everything that everyone sees, but then you're also going to have specific messages to the different pieces of audience, different segments of audiences that you have. It allows you to engage better with them. So this is where you can change their perception of you. If someone says something bad about you out there online, you have an opportunity to go out there publicly and try and change that, try and act on that, try and change their perception of you. Or if someone's out there saying, hey, I was really looking at this new set of speakers, has anybody bought these, or what do you think? You as a brand have an opportunity to go out there and say, hey, these are really great. You might want to read these online reviews about the product. So you have an opportunity to respond to some of these things that people are asking for directly with them. You also can provide coupons, special offers. Maybe you're doing some type of event that you want to invite them to. So you're able to really target what those offers and deals are to different segments of your audience. Also, like I mentioned, this will help you with your advertising dollars too. A lot of brands are moving a lot of their advertising to online. They still do billboards, they still do some newspaper ads, they still do some radio spots, but they are moving a lot of their dollars to online advertising. And you can't, again, just blanket everywhere. You want to make sure that you're hitting the demographic, you're hitting your target audience online where they hang out the most. This kind of research will help you decide that as well. And then lastly, it helps you, like I mentioned, really drive home your product roadmaps. What's going to be your next product? What's going to be the next version of your product? What are you going to include in there that really gets consumers exactly what they want to see from your brand? As well as putting some products away. Maybe there are some that the customers aren't buying anymore or that they aren't relevant anymore. You're going to be able to find that out from this data as well. The new thing that's happening with the social media data that's really, really exciting is as we're able to pull all this information together and aggregate those trends, like I mentioned, and be able to put some outcomes to it, it's also allowing us to do some predictive modeling. So what I mean by that, for example, we might be able to predict some things that are happening in the economy. If we go back and look at some trends, like if we go back when unemployment went down really low, what are some of the things that brands were saying? What were some of the things that consumers were saying right before that happened? And then can we do a prediction of when it happens again? Same with the flu outbreak. Can we help healthcare providers be able to predict a flu outbreak because a conversation's happening in this state compared to this state, so that when this starts to happen over here and they're talking about, they're getting all the symptoms, can we predict it for a different state so that we're able to do some of these outcomes for brands? Same with retailers. Can we predict a good buying season for you based on conversations that are happening online before it happens? So this is kind of the exciting stuff that brands are really looking for now, really trying to get their arms around so that they can be ahead of the curve all the time. This data can be really, really powerful and really help them drive everything that they're doing. So with that, I have time for lots of questions, if anybody has any. Yeah. Sorry, I didn't see that.
Hi. So you talked about providing like kind of incentives for your online social media, like focus groups or advisory groups or anything like that.
Right.
How would you be able to do that if you have people in your focus group from like all across the world and you may not be able to provide like physical incentive?
Sure. That's where the brand, I think, really needs to get creative. And I think when I was talking about that, I was referring to a physical focus group where they come on site. But that's a great idea. If you had a group of people that maybe you held a video conference with, or you got together on a Hangout, Google Hangout, and you got your customers, a group of 10 of them together all over the world, what would you do for them? Could you offer them a discount on the service or product? Could you offer them previews of the product before it came out? I think you could get really creative on what those incentives were to get them to continue to use or buy the product or service. So. Other questions that might be able to help you with your, yeah?
Going within the predictive modeling, how could you make it so that it would be, what's the word, objective and not necessarily overly, I'm losing the words for it, but so that you could predict it, but it wouldn't be influenced over much, like there would be a given take
right.
as opposed and have objectivity there.
Right. A great example was we were doing predictions back when the primaries were happening for the presidential election. We did predictions on the primaries as well as we did predictions on the election based on social media conversations. So yeah, we couldn't do influence in there because our office is split half and half. So, so what we want to do is be able to just take the hardcore data and you can make the predictions from that. It's very, very telling when you have X, Y, and Z to be able to predict those outcomes. So I get what you're saying, absolutely. And I think you have to be very selective in the type of data that you're going after. It can't be left up to opinion. It has to be black and white. Here's the data. Is that, how, Joan, how you kind of have it too with your?
I think so. I think you're right. I also wanted you to comment on a related topic, which is the whole idea of sample, because there's an assumption here that everyone is posting.
Yeah.
Do you have any demographics on those posting or not? Because it could be that someone has a target audience that only 5% or 20% are posting.
That's right. Absolutely. I think you do have to keep that in mind. And when we do work with brands, that's absolutely a key thing that we do tell them. This is only as good as the data that's out here. Same with the demographic information. It's only as good as what people post in their profiles. So you have to take it with a grain of salt that this is what the audience is. So we also have to find out what is the demographic of the audience that's posting online. It may not be comprehensive of your entire target audience as a brand. But it's not much different than doing phone surveys when they're calling at 3 in the afternoon and the only people who are home are retirees. So you're still getting a small sampling with that as well. So you do have to, that's why it's important to not only base everything on this, you have to get research points from many, many different areas. But this is a great sampling for some brands that have a big target audience online. Oh, one other example that I have for that. So mom bloggers or mommies are one of the biggest audiences online. They're the extreme, you know, they're talking a lot online. But we actually had a client that had an audience that wasn't online. They were actually low-income moms with children with disabilities. So they were like, how do we reach these? These moms are not online. They don't have access to anything. So what we did was we targeted their social workers because they are heavily online. So that's where you have to kind of get creative on a brand to help understand what are you really trying to get at. So. Yeah, again, it's back to those influencers.
Hi, I think it's amazing to hear how powerful the marketing company can make use of this data.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm just wondering, how could you make sure the information security and all those...
Yep, it's a great question.
Abusement of the data and
yes.
stuff like that.
So there's been a lot of controversy about that, actually. It probably got quiet again now, but a couple years ago when these tools first started aggregating this kind of data, everyone started getting all up in arms about it. So it was a concern. What we do say is this tool only goes after public information. It cannot get behind anything behind a login. It can't pull data if you've got your privacy concerns up on Facebook or when you've got your Facebook set up to be private and blah. You can't get any of that data. It's only what Google can get at is what I tell them. Whatever you can search and find publicly, the tool can grab and aggregate. So it's not looking at any private information. Great question. I skipped over that. So.
Hey, I was wondering, so have you ever heard like the phrase that like once you post something, it's on there forever?
Yes.
Well, how do brands like combat that when they have like negative posts on there that like constantly show up on like one of the first things on the screen?
Right.
And that's the first person's impression of them?
Yep. Super question. I am talking with a prospect right now for this exact situation. They are on one of the websites that I referred to called ripoffreport.com, and pissedoffcustomer.com. They have 130 negative reviews on those sites. Awful, absolutely awful. And it was their fault. I mean, they've now rectified it as a brand. But now every time you Google any of their products or services, they're plastered all over the front page of Google as well as like the second and third. So what do? You can't take them off. Those websites, those specific websites are extortionists. They wanted to charge them $160,000 to take the reviews down. However, sites like Google that does Google reviews, what you can do, a couple different things. If you're in a situation where those websites like ripoffreport.com and you have a lot of reviews out there, what I tell people is you can't take them down. Start posting as much good content as you can. Publish press releases. Facebook like crazy. publish a blog and get content out there, because what that'll do is hopefully rank above that and push those negative results down in the search results. That's what the brand has to really spend their money on, is getting those pushed down so they aren't as visible. They probably will show up on page 4, page 5, but really who goes that far? So hopefully your main goal is to get them off page 1 and 2 so they aren't seen right away. So if it's on Google Reviews, what you can do is do a great job of communicating with your customers who are happy and asking them to go out and post a review about you. Maybe you've gotten this. Let's say you just get a product that was emailed to you, you downloaded some music or you did something, and the first thing they did back, thank you for downloading blah, blah, blah. Please go fill out a customer service review, receive 5% off your next order. So you can incent people to write nice reviews about you. Google, for example, Google Reviews does not know that you're incenting your customers to do that. But it's a great way for the brand to at least intersperse positive reviews with the negative ones to try and offset it. So you have to make a concerted effort for it.
Hi. So now Facebook has this pay to promote program, which is extremely frustrating.
Yes.
So would you say it's worth it to just like pay the money, take the risk, and try and reach a larger audience, or just try and focus more on your small core group of followers?
Wow. I'm going to say it depends. I'm taking the cop-out answer. I would say with Facebook, though, and most of the other channels online, it's better to target when you can, to talk to a smaller audience that really is passionate and cares, than to talk to a larger one. I think there are instances where that is different, but I think anytime you can target that smaller audience. There's so many things out on Facebook that have just come out in the last 2 months, the promoted posts. Now you can do mobile apps. You can pay for your app to show up on the wall feed now for people to download. So Facebook's really trying to make a lot of money with that. So I think you have to get pretty creative in being genuine with the people that are following you, making sure you're completely transparent as a brand and that you're actually communicating on their level, so to speak, what they care about. So yeah, I think as targeted as you can get. Does that answer? Yeah. But that's why I think this research is really important too. The one thing I didn't have in here, I should have thrown in, was when we look at the data, it'll tell us the top conversation themes about whatever it is you're searching on. So if I'm a brand, I can look at those top 15 things that people say the most in relation to my brand name. So that's really helpful too. Are they good words? Are they bad words? Are they, so.
Who do companies use to actually do this? Because when, maybe 5 years ago when social media was fairly new, what I was talking to companies, the very large companies were saying, oh, we have an intern who just started, doesn't probably know much about the company. We're just going to have them answer this and do this and blog that. Who are the professionals now,
Yeah.
and how strategically do they decide what to post?
We get asked this question all the time of who should I hire to handle social media? So our company does a lot of social media, some community management for a lot of brands, meaning the brands just say, just handle it for me. You be my voice. You go out there and post on my behalf. You decide what should be posted. That. And it ranges the spectrum. Some brands are very hands-on. Some brands have somebody that does the posting. But honestly, I think young people do a fabulous job at social media. They understand what's important, what's going to get eyeballs on it. They get it. So to be able to marry a young person up there that understands social media and the impact and the tools and how to use them with a PR person or a seasoned communications person internally, that is an extremely powerful team. And we see that working very, very well. Even if they don't have that seasoned communications person and they have a young person right out of college that's doing the social media, they'll hire someone like us to help them drive the strategy, and then they can run with it and execute it. So we see a lot of different variations of that. So, yeah.
If
Yes.
and you want to do some of this monitoring, and you really aren't at a
Mm-hmm.
hire a company.
Right.
We all watch our Facebook. We all maybe use a Hootsuite type of
Uh-huh.
product. What would you recommend?
Sure. The question was, if I'm a small business and I can't hire an agency to do a lot of the heavy lifting, what would be some tools or some practices that you could do as a small business to manage and monitor your social media? Is that about right? There are a number of free tools out there that are fabulous for this. If you haven't, this is the bottom level, but hopefully you're doing Google Alerts. That's easy. That's just an alerting tool in Google on any keyword that you want. Very, very simple. No reporting. No follow-up, just bam, it comes to your email, and every time it happens online. There's another tool called Social Mention. If you haven't used Social Mention before, it's a pretty cool tool. It also has alerting. It does not have reporting, but it gives you some scoring on the side. So it's telling you like a 1-to-1 ratio of what your tone is of the conversations. So again, that was socialmention.com. There's some inexpensive tools that have reporting. One of them is called Viral Heat. And Viral Heat is about $50 to $60 a month, I think. And what this tool does, it does monitoring for you. So when you set up the searches, it does all the monitoring on your searches for you, alerts you, as well as you can pull reports on it as well, just very small reports. You can also do some reports in Hootsuite. So I definitely would be setting these kind of, there's another one called NetVibes, NETVIBES. This is free. Netvibes.com is an amazing tool. You can set up an entire dashboard, and the widgets on it are great. So you can build a dashboard with widgets that stream all the conversation happening about, let's just say you set it up on your brand name, happening in Google, happening on Twitter, happening on Facebook. You can all put those in the different widgets so you can see it. Completely free tool. Then you can set up different dashboards within your free account. So let's say I set up a dashboard on my brand, I set up a dashboard on my competitors, I set up a dashboard on my keywords. This is what we do for all of our clients, and they absolutely love it. The great thing about this is when you're monitoring like that, number one, you can see any conversations that are happening. Maybe you need to respond to something that was said. But it also allows you to see what are people talking about in relation to your industry. Is there something hot out there I should be blogging about or talking about on my Facebook page or offering in my products, because the whole industry is talking about it. So it helps you keep a pulse on it. So that's a really good tool too. Okay, good. Other questions?
I have one more.
Yeah?
Well, everybody did.
You want this one?
Thank you. What do you see as the future? Where is this going? If you come back in a year or 2 or 4 years, what will you think it'll be like? What kind of tools, and how will companies be using what you're talking about?
Already in the big brands today that we work with, even here in the Central Ohio region, places like The Limited, the Bath & Body Works, Ohio Health, Ohio State, they are all using these types of very, very powerful conversation analysis tools. This is a mainstream thing for them now. They are doing monitoring with this, they're doing responding to this, they are doing trending and analysis. I think this is just going to infiltrate every business now. This is going to become a mandatory thing because as consumers now, we expect this kind of response from brands. We expect brands to know exactly when I posted that comment on a blog or I posted that comment on a news site that a brand's going to respond to me. They're going to come out and offer me a discount. They're going to come out and make it right. They're going to pull me on their advocacy board because I said something really positive about them. So I think we're going to see this go to a whole nother level with customer engagement. And I think tools are going to become so readily available for brands that are even much better than this. So I just feel like it's going to become part of our daily life. There won't be talk about it, really. It's just going to happen. So.
Any other questions?
You guys have been great. Thank you. Thank you.